With 2 episodes of this show centering around Resident Evil films, I figured we should show a little love to the other side of the classic survival horror coin. Silent Hill, which hit theaters in April of 2006, will be our focus today. Was this film any good upon release? Does it hold up today? How do you translate a video game as bizarre as Silent Hill into a feature-length film? Let's talk about it. Welcome to Scream Sequence, razor-sharp reviews of your favorite creepy classics. Every video here on 616 Entertainment is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos and podcasts, and more. Pro Wrestling Tees has the merch. As always, thank you for watching. Silent Hill is a weird video game, man. I personally feel that parts of it are incoherent, and much of what is told to the player directly is done so in nearly a From Software fashion. You know what I mean by that, right? Games like Demon's Souls and Elden Ring have incredibly deep lore to them, but unless you go looking for in-depth explanations, good luck figuring out what the hell's going on in the moment. How do you take such an obtuse, horrifying, tortured tale and lay it all out in such a condensed fashion? You've only got 2 hours to work with. That was director Christoph Gans's goal. That was his mission. He fought for this license for years, going as far as sending the suits at Konami a subtitled video telling them how big a fan he was of the games, and that he wanted to make a film that would do them justice. Did he pull it off? Well, let's jump into the story, and then we'll check back in. Sharon is a young girl who suffers from night terrors and sleepwalking. After speaking over and over about a town called Silent Hill in the midst of these episodes, her adoptive mother decides to take her there in search of answers. But Silent Hill is no ordinary town. As a matter of fact, it is locked off, completely abandoned, due to coal fires that are still burning below the streets to this day. Even with the police on her tail, Rose bursts through the locked gates of this ghost town when an apparition appears in the road, causing her to crash. When she comes to, her daughter is gone, and it becomes abundantly clear that there is something very wrong with this place. Rose and Sybil Bennett, the police officer who followed her into the city, cross paths again. And though they're not on good terms, they have to work together in order to survive this place.
Stand back.
A distressed, obviously downtrodden woman claims that Sharon is her daughter. The world continues to shift at the sound of a haunting siren from somewhere in the distance, and the beings that exist in this world are... I mean, just look at them. This group of religious nuts lose their shit at the sight of Sharon, claiming not only to know her, but that she's a witch. These people they're not normal. Officer Sybil takes them on so that Rose can pursue Sharon in the depths of the town, and this does not end well for Sybil. The cult burns her alive in a ritual sacrifice. They've captured Sharon and their intent is to burn her as well. Rose fights through a sea of horrifying creatures into the black heart of Silent Hill, and what she finds is beyond words. This is Alessa. When she was just a child, the cult of Silent Hill burned her alive, labeling her a fatherless sin. Kept alive only by the hatred flowing through her veins, Alessa's heart continued to beat. Every day, her need for revenge grew ever stronger. The hate festered and spread like an infection. And that's when a visitor came. A visitor bearing a strange resemblance to Alessa. But this was no twin. This, as a matter of fact, was the devil. An agreement was forged seemingly in the flames beneath the town, and ever since, Silent Hill has existed in this ever-changing shroud of fog and desolation. This is where we learn that Sharon isn't a real human being like the rest of us. She was born of the last remaining good within Alessa, planted outside of that hospital to be discovered by Rose to carry out this mission. With all this information now at hand, Rose accepts the spirit of Alessa and her dark partner into her body in order to help them infiltrate the church of the cult. When their leader spills Rose's blood, Alessa emerges and revenge is served. I honestly cannot show any of this, even with the way I've been pushing the censors to see what I can and can't get away with. This shit is beyond reason. Honestly, some of the most shocking imagery I've ever seen in any movie occurs right here in Silent Hill. If you're on Patreon, you're seeing what I'm talking about, but YouTube doesn't swing like that. Anyway, with her thirst for vengeance quenched, Alessa leaves Silent Hill with Rose. They return home, but unbeknownst to Rose, they're not really home. They're still in the fog dimension, and that is our movie. Holy shit! I know, this movie is kind of confusing, but this is nothing in comparison to the game. And you may have noticed Sean Bean at the end there. He plays Christopher, Rose's husband and Sharon's adoptive father. I did not even bother mentioning him while I was telling the story because his character really doesn't need to exist at all. While Rose is on this unbelievable journey, scaring the shit out of us and keeping us guessing at every turn, Christopher is trying to call Rose on the phone. He's talking to the police who are telling him what we already know, that Silent Hill is a dangerous place where you shouldn't go. They kind of stick a few hints in through Christopher regarding what's actually going on, but his existence is largely worthless. This is because this character was not initially in the script. The director wanted Silent Hill to be 100% female, but the studio weren't having it. They wanted dudes, and so all of these cops and a husband were created out of nowhere. In my opinion, they slow things down, and when it's all said and done, they simply make the movie too long. But hey, what can you do? I want to talk about the monsters. I want to talk about the effects. I want to talk about the sets. I want to get into all of it. So that's what we'll do right now. First of all, the unsung hero of this film is production designer Carol Spear. One of the interviews I watched, she's walking through all of the sets, chronicling their construction and what went into each look. She says, "I have a passion for movies with texture." Holy shit, Carol, we can tell. These sets are amongst the coolest I've ever seen. They're massive. The detail is incredible. And that brings me to Roberto Campanella, the creature coordinator and choreographer, who guided the entire gaggle of nurses through their distinct movements. Hey, this wouldn't be a bad way to die. He did the same for the child monster thing, whose name I don't currently recall. And yes, as you can clearly see, these effects are all practical. Remember the armless monster from earlier? Practical. This was a giant latex sleeve covering the actor's entire body. Do we have any claustrophobic Dan-Dans watching right now going, hell no? Roberto Campanella didn't only serve as a choreographer though. He played Pyramid Head, known in this film as Red Pyramid. Yes, this creature was also entirely practical. Those are 15-inch lifts in his shoes, making him about 7'6", towering over everyone else. The janitor strung up in the bathroom stall, his legs bound to his head, tied around his eyes with barbed wire. This is Roberto as well. God damn, this design is great. His performance is chilling. It's excellent. Do not look up this character's background if you're sensitive to crimes involving children. His body is contorted like this to force him into dragging his unmentionables across the ground for eternity for a very dark and very specific reason. Let's just say Alessa's making sure he's getting what he deserves. The stunt work here is insane too. Yes, that's really Laurie Holden tied to a massive ladder leaning over a fire pit made of sharp sticks. Yes, that's really Radha Mitchell jumping from steel girder to steel girder above an open pit. The music, which I can't play for you because this is YouTube, is unbelievably in line with the video game. And on that note, some of these camera angles are one-to-one recreations. Director Christoph Gans was not playing around here. This is not the type of guy who claims to love the source material while his knowledge of it is nearly non-existent. This man wanted to bring the game to the big screen, and in my mind, he blew away any and all expectations. For my money, this might be the most faithful video game adaptation ever made. For years, I have told people, dude, the first Silent Hill movie's pretty good, but it's not pretty good. I think this movie as a whole is fucking awesome. Now, much of that comes from me knowing what went into making it. Part of it comes from the fact that this movie tells its story like a video game, practically through cutscenes entirely in the final 30 minutes of the film, which is not how movies are made. It's ridiculous. It's confusing, sure. It's too long, but that's Silent Hill for you. Grossing just over $100 million at the box office against a budget of $50 million, this wasn't a massive hit or a money loser. In my mind, it's underrated, and I highly recommend you give it a watch this Halloween season. Oh, there it is, Dan-Dans. Silent Hill. Good lord. Why bury the lead? Next time out, it's Candyman.